happened in Arizona. And joining me this morning is Dr. Donna Marigani. She's from UCSD. She's here to help us with the information. Board certified psychiatrist, and we appreciate you being here, faculty, staff at the university. This is a tough thing for kids to see, especially a lot are hearing about it. I mean, even if we're not talking about it, they're hearing the news or they're hearing their parents talk about it. What's the first thing we need to think about when it comes to talking to our kids about something like this?
Well, first of all, you need to be aware of the fact that if you're discussing anything within earshot of a child, they're catching on to it. And that includes having the news on. So be very careful about that going into it. However, you do need to look at the age of the child. For example, 6 to 12-year-olds are very concerned about body integrity issues.
What does that mean?
Getting hurt. If I have to go get stitches, does that mean they're going to amputate my leg? So if they're hearing about somebody, in fact, having been shot, then they're going to worry about, okay, if I go to school, am I going to get shot as well? So you just need to recognize that especially that age group is very predisposed to anxiety.
And we'll talk a little bit later about what to say to a child that age. Also, if they're a little bit older, what else? What other considerations do you think that they're thinking about or could be concerned about?
Actually, adolescents are a little bit more narcissistic and egocentric, so they're going to be more likely to think, oh, well, that would never happen to me, or I could fight the guy off. So I am generalizing, but looking at where a child is developmentally, an adolescent is going to be less concerned unless they have significant predisposing anxiety genetically.
Should you bring it up to a child if they don't bring up the topic? How should you handle that?
Usually children are in fact having that topic brought up with them in the schools already. Okay. So find out, and then there's good communication usually between schools and families. Find out what has been discussed with them and then review it with them later in that day.
So how would you start a discussion with someone? Let's go with a younger child. How would you start that process?
So for example, if the teacher had said something to the child and you know that in fact that discussion had been started, you can say, oh, I hear, you know, Mrs. So-and-so had a discussion with you guys about some really tragic things that had happened.
Or you may have seen me watching the news a lot lately, and then how would you start the process?
Well, you want to hear what's going on with them. If they're having any anxiety, if they're worried, also pick up on if you're seeing any changes in behavior. If you're seeing that your child is more irritable, more clingy, more tearful, wants to know where you're going, whereas they usually are fine being alone in a room. Again, those are great signs to look for, and just bring it to their attention. I noticed that you've been a little bit more concerned when I walk out of the room.
Once you see the signs, or you think you need to go on and really talk about the situation, maybe they can learn something from it, or how do you go through the process, and what do you want to do to reassure them that things are generally okay, that this is an isolated situation? How do you do that?
You do want to acknowledge the feeling. So when they're saying to you, well, I'm really worried that I'm going to get shot when I go to school, you know, don't dismiss it by saying, oh, you're just trying to get out of school. So make sure you're not dismissing it. Make sure you're acknowledging what the child is saying. It's just like if a 2-year-old falls down, you don't go, oh, you know, snap out of it, you'll be fine. You acknowledge the fact that they've got a boo-boo, and, you know, you let them know that you're there and that you will do everything that you can to make sure that they're safe. So acknowledging the feeling and then reassuring. Those are really the best ways to address it.
What other advice do you have for parents that have seen what's gone on this week and want to be able to communicate with their children effectively about, you know, a lot of people are feeling vulnerable, they're feeling very hurt by what happened and shocked by what happened. How can you help your children understand?
Well, I think we should review maybe the 5 stages that a person goes through when there's some kind of a loss, and so it depends on how significantly close the child is, or, you know, if, for example, the children in Arizona are going to be more affected by our children here. But the 5 stages of loss, not necessarily in this order, are denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. So you need to maybe see where your child might fit in that, in those criteria, and then based on that, if there is enough behavioral changes and changes in personality at the baseline, and it's going on for more than 2 weeks, you might want to speak to a mental health professional, your child's pediatrician, have the classroom maybe, or the school counselor speak with your child or the children in the class as well.
All right, some very good advice. Appreciate you coming in today.
My pleasure.
It is Dr. Donna Marigani from UCSD. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.